Yeah.
They're all going to kick in and say, I'm going to be there. Like last week, everybody said, don't even think about it, we're not going to be there. But you always know, I can go get my loaf of bread, and I can do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's really useful.
Besides the AWA, what did you find to be the most helpful resources starting out? I mean, I know you said you did a lot of work in the field, but
I think it's as far as just the farm in general or our specific farm.
yeah, I mean, any. We don't have a farming background.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think though I reluctantly recommend Joel Salatin's books because I think he's kind of off the hook a little bit, but he has a lot of good information. I think that You Can Farm book was good. It got a good technical information. SARE, that's a good website. I think Extension can be helpful if you take everything they say with a grain of salt.
Osu Extension.
Osu Extension, yeah. OFA conferences. There's a, you have here in Athens County. The extension agent in Hocking County is named Tim McDermott. He's great. And I think he'll always say, well, check with our extension agent's great, but for whatever reason, Tim just has a fire in his belly, and he has come out and answered a lot of questions. He's a veterinarian, so he is just really knowledgeable and really happy to answer questions, so he's great. There, also with Extension, there's a lot of different classes. Like there is, I know there's a small ruminant class coming up, so it's good to contact them and say, hey, what do you guys got going on? And then other farmers in the area, I mean, you guys are welcome to come see our place. Even to go to the market too and just ask if someone has a product you're interested in learning more about. Just most of the time, folks will be really eager to.
How do you go about gauging not the farmer's market, but the market? I mean, to figure out. I mean, you talked about knowing what you're going to be able to sell them for and that sort of thing. Like the individual price is one thing, but also like the saturation of the market and like is everybody already doing goats in Athens, or does somebody need a sheep dairy, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no sheep dairy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I use that example because you said they weren't. But.
Yeah. I don't know. Kale, my feelings are better.
That's kind of trade secret.
No, I don't know. There's
people who
70
do market
vegetable
research.
farmers.
Yeah.
What about now?
There are people who do market research, and even like within OU, you could find a student perhaps who would help you do a survey to gauge interest in a certain product. And I think in our situation, we really started with like what Paul said, like what do I want to be doing in my life? What can this land do? And starting with that, and then things have evolved and changed throughout of, well, let's add a little bit of this, or let's try this, or, well, that sold better than I thought, so let's do more of that. So I think with any of it, there has to be a certain level of flexibility, adapting to as it kind of comes out. I'm sure someone in market research would tell you this totally. Don't listen to us, but
I mean, I know something that did help us that was like early on paying attention to, like if you go to the market early and see what people have on the table, and then go to the market at the end of the day and see what people still have on the table, don't grow that. Because there's probably plenty of it at market, and then just looking at, for us on a very small vegetable scale, like I feel like everything we grow has to be profitable, and if it's not, it has to fill some very specific niche, like that it's going to draw people in so that they then do buy things that are profitable. But yeah, so trying to pay attention to things, places where we felt like there were gaps in the market, things that people didn't have, or products that there weren't enough of at market that always sold out fast.
Another place that you might be interested in looking at is the Boyntonwood School. They're the local business entrepreneurial aid, essentially, you could say. So they tend to have the programs that actually can pull specific market data. Not so much on the farming stuff, that's like as far as that, well, my experience, but if you're looking at, say, you want to know how many pizza shops or something are here, you can start seeing backdoor thinking of it. So you can see how many restaurants there are and how many types of restaurants there are. So you could start seeing what they get, what their general resources that they generally come through. So you can do a backdoor kind of categorization of what you might be able to get into with those people. So that's one way, one resource that you might be able to utilize in an upcoming startup company on
If
farming.
there's something that you think you want to produce, the farmer's market's not necessarily always the answer. You know, there are
Mhm.
restaurants who want or need certain things, but they're not getting locally, you know, so it's worth it to potentially talk to some of those people, some of them are sitting behind you.
Both ACENet and Rural Action, I think, have personnel who do have some of this information. Even if they don't offer that in-house, they would be able to steer you toward this information.
There's another organization, it's called ATRA, and it's USDA, it's online. They have a lot of business plans, and there's a lot of videos, and that's, I found it, that's been pretty helpful as far as research that I've done.
And again, I would stress, and this is also just a reminder for myself too, the more I say it, is to grow or raise something that you like. Because like, if you're gonna do it right, you're gonna do it every single day, 24 hours a day, you know? Because something's gonna happen at midnight too. And it's gotta be something that is profitable, obviously, but it's something that's enjoyable. Because otherwise, you're gonna be really angry in 10 years, or you won't be doing it. So it's important to find that out. Like, what do I enjoy doing? Do I like sheep? Do I like carrots? You know? Or,
Can you talk a little bit more about your transition from off-farm to on-farm? I mean, was it just as simple as, yeah, you had 2 jobs for a while until this one took off?
Mhm.
Is that a little bit of
yeah, I just had numbers in mind, and I think there is. I think to do, it's any business, but I'm talking about pharmacy, to do it well, it has to be full-time, I think. If you want to have a business and market, I mean, obviously you can have a home farm, but that's just my belief. I don't know, other people are doing, I mean, like, there's probably someone farming 10,000 acres in Nebraska that is a full-time mechanic. But I think to do it well on our farm, someone had to be there all the time. And it's what I wanted to do, and it made the most sense. So yeah, so it was just, I hit a point where I thought I felt comfortable, it made sense, and so, yeah, it was just, because that was the trajectory anyway, so. Because there's always something that needs to be done.
And you talk about it's important for the business to be profitable, but if the sole goal is just profitability,
Yeah, go to law school.
Don't become
don't
a
become a
farmer.
farmer.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be something that is how you want to spend your time, it's how you want your life to be structured. Like, we're not going on vacations, like, we don't travel because our life is here, and for us, that's fine, and there are times that I think people is happy to stay behind, and it's a great excuse.
It's a great excuse to not leave.
But if the point is just maximize income, it's not, as a sole job, it's not a very stable income. So it has to then be serving some other purpose in life, which is, it's satisfying, it's what you want to do with your time and your energy.
And you're full-time off-farm, and then
And
pick up around.
full-time on farm.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But I mean, I think everyone here who could tell you, it's a great way to spend time, I think, with animals and plants
And each other.
and each other, yeah, and the community. Even if it's not a full-time or a money-making operation, I think it's. But I think those are the things too that Extension's not going to talk about. You know, they're going to say, every 5 years it seems like Extension is a new thing where you're going to make a fortune. It was Christmas trees, and then like 5 years ago it was sheep.
And it was meat goats.
And it was meat goats, yeah. All the tobacco farms were going to
Right.
be
Hops,
four
it was
goats.
hops for a while.
It's hops for a while, and it's like, If you don't like your own hops, then why grow them?
Hops is more difficult to grow than sheep and goats. It's got a lot of problems. Now hemp may be another issue.
Say, I know that we run over about 10 minutes over time. Is there anything that anybody else has one like dire question that you guys want to answer? Answer that
Is more to add?
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
I know the livestock operation.
I mean, you pretty much hit upon everything. I think the real big thing is that, like Paul said, start small, but treat it as a business. And, because you'll see just how quickly expenses just start mounting up. They really, really do. And, that they can get away from you, I think, if you're not careful. And, just even if it's a small operation, you only have 4 or 5 sheep or 4 or 5 goats, whatever the case may be. Track it, debits and credits, and know where your money's going. And that will tell you. That's going to be your barometer. It's going to tell you whether or not you want to move forward. Into the next step.
And I think with that too, an important lesson that I think is just oftentimes the personality of small farmers, so it works great, is you can do a lot with inexpensive tools. Like, Henry talked about that too, of like not even wanting to buy that basket weeder. And it's just important, I think, to, do you even really need a tractor? So there's things that you can, to start, that's starting small, it's not.
And he's got that 40-year-old tractor. He's still got to run around with it.
Yeah.
We have no fence on our property. We did a farm tour, right? And I overheard somebody said, "Where's all this fence?" And I don't have anything. I have 60 premier nets, and I've got them on a trailer. And that's all I do is I'm a grass farmer. I manage my grass with nets. And when you do the cost analysis on what it takes to put in fence, and then you find, now I'm 55 years old, so now it's kind of starting to be more of a chore for me to do this, and I'm gradually moving to more permanent fencing. But when you look at that, we put in fence this year, and the cost was $10,000. That's a big chunk of money. But with my premier nets, I can on Monday morning I can set it up, and then tear down at the next week. And I just keep doing that, going from pasture to pasture. And
Was that figure with purchase posts?
yeah,
Oh,
that
okay,
was with
yeah.
posts, gates. It's 48 inches woven wire,
Oh,
high
okay.
tensile, and I have 2 hot wires on top that takes me up to 57 inches.
You have a fancy fence.
Well, it's my land finishing pasture.
Yeah, that's a nice fence.
So
yeah.
I don't have dogs in there right
Mhm.
now. So
Yeah.
above 57 inches, a coyote can't get over the
Yeah.
top of that. So that was kind of why I had to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Brian reminded me too, a great resource is Premier. Premier One Supply, it's called. It's a fencing company. They just have great information.
Super catalogs.
Great catalogs.
Great catalogs.
Yeah, they're trying to sell you something. And custom stuff, but they're just really neat stuff.
And specialized catalogs too.
Yeah.
There's a chicken catalog, there's a sheep catalog, there's a goat catalog.
Yeah, I just know that 99% of the stuff you don't need, but.
So in terms of an extension tool, did you look at like a dairy goat production budget?
Yes, several, yeah.
Did you find that useful?
Yeah,
That's the classic business tool for a farmer.
I did, yeah. And I found it useful because it enabled me to realize a lot of the things that I didn't need, I think, too. I think in a lot of those budgets, because there's so much wiggle room in all these things, and I look at it so much as, it just, as far as the expenses and infrastructure, it's getting away with what you can, finding what you can get away with, whatever they say that. So yeah, I did find that useful as a template, but then figuring out how can I get it a little cheaper. Yeah, and also just talking to farmers too, I think. was really helpful.
Do you remember the best dairy goat budget that you found?
No, I could probably find the website though. UC Davis had one. That's a good. I think it's the best extension. But yeah, they have several. I think they went through 5 or 6 dairy goat farms from small to large, and they have budgets there too. But they'll have all livestock and all. So that one's really helpful. Also for us too.
We have no labor costs.
Yeah, so there's all
too,
that
so
stuff.
that's
Yeah.
different.
The state was very helpful too, right? Other than absurd rules, the state's been great. I mean, as far as answering questions.
Well, Paul, I appreciate you taking time and showing your wisdom that you've done throughout the years.
Thanks for coming. That was fun.
You're really welcome.
For those of us who provide the snacks and everything, please eat.
One of his products is over there, sure.
Yeah, one of their products is over there. It's
She
delicious.
didn't make enough of this year.
Cajeta.
The cajeta, yeah, it's really good. So if you don't eat it, it's fine.
We
I'll
meant
take
to
it.
bring cheese.
It goes good with that cake on top of it.
I did it with the crackers.
I'm sure if you would.
Yeah, I seem like I'm hungry.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Appreciate everything you guys continually coming through. Tonight we have Bob and Christine from Village Bakery. They're going to be talking about their particular part of the enterprise, which is retail. Wow! in the service industry. So appreciate for them coming out, and I'll hand it off to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have a slideshow, but we were thinking about what we're going to talk about, and we came up with kind of 4 themes that apply to what we're doing, and we thought they may resonate with you as you're thinking about your own business, if that's what you're doing. So we'll touch on them, but the first one is adaptability. These are things that are really important to us, we've learned. Education, partnerships, and impact. So just to begin, we can start with adaptability. It's fair to say that we definitely have planned very little in our business, and so we've had to be adaptable, but I think it's benefited us as well. You can do the first slide. I think I just realized when talking to Kip that that's a fortunate thing for us. We're able to be a lot more adaptable than, say, a farmer who is planting crops for a whole year, right? So because we're not growing our product, we have a lot more flexibility built into this business model, so that's something to consider. Not to say don't grow food, but to say if, there's trade-offs, so that's one thing that we actually are happy to take advantage of. So this is actually, we don't have any of the old pictures because of technology. We just have recently taken pictures, but this is the original building that we opened in 2002. Before we started there, I had been started a business called Baker's Trade, and it was kind of a CSA for different kinds of businesses. This was out of Rural Action and AceNet. It was called Good Food Direct. Do you remember this?
So what did you
So
call
this
it
was-
before that?
It was called the Baker's Trade. It only
And you
existed
did that
for
for
a
the Good Food
season, or was it
Direct?
2 seasons?
That you did that as one of the vendors to go to
Exactly.
food direct.
Yeah, so we were a
Oh,
vendor.
okay, oh,
Mhm.
okay, okay.
Did you have a question?
Before you get too wound up,
Yeah,
another
yeah.
car just pulled in.
Oh, okay. We'll catch up with them,
Yeah, okay.
unless you want us to wait.
No, go ahead.
So, yeah, that was a thing that AceNet and Rural Action put together, and I think it included probably 20 different vendors at least, a lot of growers and some bakers and other local producers. So that was a way that we could test out recipes and kind of develop our marketing, our label, things like that. But we didn't have a location yet, we were just selling it at AceNet. So then, just keeping an eye out for places, we saw this pizza shop that had just opened. It was like one of a local chain, Goodfellas, had opened a pizza shop in this space. So I went, I don't know how I got the gumption, but I just went and said, I see you're not using the space all the time, do you think that I could use the space part of the time because I'm looking for a place to have a bakery? And so we kind of made some connections. He was starting to buy food from Good Food Direct, from Rural Action. So we made some connections, and then it happened quite quickly, like within a few weeks of that first discussion, that he said, here's the key. The place is yours, like next week. And so I hadn't really thought everything through.
He was in the middle of growing another part of the business. Joe Lamoli opened up Goodfellas uptown. So he basically shut his operation down.
That's right.
This
He had a
location.
second location uptown.
And that's the time frame. It's just like good timing.
That wasn't what he called it here.
I can't remember what he called
Good
it. That
Fellas.
came later. Anyway, we don't want to get too caught up in it. but-
It's still Goodfellas today, under a different ownership,
Yeah.
up on the corner.
The point was, we just kind of started, Bob was helping me with the baker's trade work at AceNet, but he was still working at CASA. We had worked together there for years. Anyway, so it was like, okay, here we go, and you have to start paying rent right away. So we basically opened in like a couple of weeks from getting that key. And we started out with a couple of employees, and we're bringing in like $300 a day during the good times. And it was going great. We had international breads was what we were kind of focusing on at the beginning. There's Crescia. That's an Italian delicious bread. And we can keep going. But the whole point of us going into business, of starting the business, we had brainstormed for years together about how to use more of this local stuff that's people are growing here that not enough places are using. So, it wasn't just breads. Bread was the draw because at the time there were 2 other bakeries in town, have since left, but you can keep going. But anyway, so it was breads and also salads and sandwiches and soups, but just a small menu and a little retail place. We were open in the mornings. And go through a couple more. Sweets, of course. We learned that people like sweets a lot. Like, I wasn't a big sweets baker, but turned out people really wanted a lot of sweets and chocolate chip cookies, so we eventually caved and made plain old chocolate chip cookies. But we started with more unusual things. Okay, so then, suddenly, you can jump in anytime, so I don't want to dominate.
You're doing super.
All right, so then it was 2005. We started in 2002, January. About 3 years later, was that 4 years? It seems like it was 3 years later, our landlord said, okay, we're remodeling this building next door, and then you're going in there, because we want our building back. So, this building was...
There wasn't a lot of choice, but that
we
was
had
the
a
goal.
decent relationship,
Yeah.
it was more like, of course, whatever. And so this was like a gas station. It was an old gas station, a detailing shop, yeah. So it was a real mess, and we had not much input on what was going to happen with it. But he built, they remodeled it, and then said, okay, go over there. And so we did, and it was huge, a big change for us. It doubled the size of our business right away. We had to hire more people. We were open more hours because there was just more rent to pay. And, but there was more parking. Anyway, business was great. And then is that when he said, okay, now, go ahead.
So, I mean, the time frame is really fast.
Yeah,
So
it was
like
faster than I
a year late, basically a year
It
later,
was a year
the
later.
news came that we either buy the building,
Yeah,
the property itself,
they wanted to get out.
or they're selling it to somebody. It's like it's up for sale.
Is this the?
Yeah, and so we're into this business, you know, for years without, you know, in a very fast pace
Right,
growth.
we weren't planning any of this, but what
And
I'm
we had
saying is
this,
we were able to adapt to it and
Yeah.
fortunately, and things kept being positive. Even though we weren't asking for these changes, they ended up being good changes. So that was nice. But yeah, the deal was either, you know, we're gonna sell it to somebody else and they're gonna be the landlord of the buildings, or you can buy the whole property. So we had to buy both properties, and the whole lot. And, you know, it's in Athens and there's a lot.
I didn't know where it was located.
Yeah, it's right in town, but it's not on Court Street, so it's like a couple of blocks away from Court Street. So a lot of people who live on Court Street never find us. It's amazing. But it's a really nice location because it's basically a part of a very residential area where lots of professors and families live. So it's very convenient, walkable. Okay, so then we're in our new building, but we have this other building now. Now we have to take charge of, you know, 2 businesses. So he had been running it as a pizza place, and it had a gas-fired oven in it. We called it a stone oven, but, you know, he talked it up and said it was great. And so we said, all right, so we'll,
It was a good natural progression because we wanted to run a pizza place. One of the motivating factors behind that was that we were very knowledgeable about bread, flatbreads. It was really something we knew how to do, and we knew that we can do it fantastic.
yeah, we had
Also-
tasted the local pizza and we knew there could be more local toppings on the
That's
local
the thing,
pizza,
was
you
that
know.
it could have been all local,
Yeah,
basically.
so even though it was kind of scary to take over this place too, we're like, well, of course we can do pizza. So we did that, and we opened, I don't know, what's the next picture? We opened, okay, don't go there yet. So we opened the pizzeria, and we called it Della Zona, which means from the region, and it was delicious.
This is the pizzeria.
Yeah,
just
this
to
is
be
the
sure.
pizzeria.
This is the pizzeria we're talking about.
So we ran that and the bakery for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. It was very stressful. Wait a second, did we do that first? No, we did the pizzeria, okay.
In
And then-
2007, we opened up Della Zona,
Right.
which is from the region, the pizzeria's name. We tried to change the name so that it identified it as its own separate entity rather than just calling it the Village Bakery Pizza House or something like that. So that was the concept behind that, so that we can build a restaurant, evening restaurant, and then have more of a morning lunch and breakfast. So you can see a lot of the work there is that you're spreading yourself, you know, several hours throughout the day from, you know, early morning to late at night. But,
And it's not that we had wanted to do that and run 2 restaurants, but with the high mortgage that we now had to pay, we felt pretty much like we had to.
That's another good thing, is that this all happened in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
And a really good understanding was that that was when commercial prices and real estate prices were astronomically in a bubble that we did not know, nor I think we should have known, but other people did know that it was in a bubble. And when we did purchase the building and it was appraised at an inflated rate. And the good side of that was that our mortgage company, OU Credit Union, allowed us to get a loan, when in fact a year later nobody was going to get a loan.
That's true.
So I always say that there's 2 things. We paid twice as much, but if we waited, we could have paid half as much, but we never would have gotten a loan. Because that's just the nature of what happened during that time frame. And still, to some extent, is happening now in different ways. So that's a good little snapshot of what happened at that time. So,
So then we were doing the pizza shop and doing the bakery, and we're doing okay. It was pretty stressful. And then our friend had opened an organic fair trade coffee shop in a real estate building across town, which was called Moku. And she was running that for a few months, maybe 6 months. And it was in a beautiful building, LEED certified, and had a kind of separate clientele than what we had over here. And she came to us and said she wanted to get out of it. She was on her own. She did not have a partnership like we have, and she was really struggling. And we didn't want to see it disappear. And the realtor said, if she doesn't sell it to you, he's probably just going to ask some other chain people uptown to take it over. So we took it on. So it was ridiculous, but it's actually turned out to be a really good thing. So it's a different kind of business. It's a espresso-focused business. There's no kitchen there. It's on West Union Street, right across from White's Mill. There's a beautiful view of the river and the bald eagles. And it's just a nice, quieter place. There's less chaos because there's no cooks talking in the kitchen the whole time. So we were able to gain from a different part of the market. I mean, some of the customers are the same customers, but it's like we're able to offer something different down there. We just bring the food down, and they bring it back, the leftovers, for us to eat at night. But it's almost out of our minds some of the time. It's just like a thing that works for us, and we don't have to put a lot of energy into it. We don't have to do a lot of management because the skills needed there are smaller range of skills, I'd say. So that was actually a good thing. We renamed it Catalyst, and to kind of inspire more good things to develop in the food and beverage world here. So what's next?
What's next?
That was 2009. So I just wanted to point out that we also are able to have varied income streams. We're not, we started thinking, okay, we're going to be a bakery, we're going to sell mostly bread. But, do you remember that a few years ago, maybe it was around that time, all of a sudden everybody's allergic to gluten, and nobody really wants to buy bread. So, that would have shut us down if we were just a bread place. But because we're able to do, we can develop our menu, we can change our menu, we can offer more local products for sale. I feel like we benefit from having that flexibility.
Did you really see a drop in bread sales at that time?
Oh, yeah.
Have they picked up since?
Yeah, they have, but they haven't gone back to where they were.
Really?
But the market's changed, there's a new bakery 2 doors away from us, there's several more bakeries at the farmer's market. So, I mean, the market has changed, but that was kind of a big, unexpected thing.
That happened rather precipitously?
Yeah, when, soon after the market crash, and we were overextended, but we're still doing what we wanted to do, and it's not like we are here to create more glutinous products, What we wanted to do was to use more local food and to keep building this good food economy, so we just found other ways to do it. But we're still making fantastic bread, so when we did move over and take over that building, do you want to talk about the bread oven?
Sure. In 2010 is when we were still running Dell'Ozona, and we were still trying to get our foothold in building that pizzeria as a business, as a profitable business. At this point, it's still taking quite a bit away, like at a loss, taking a lost year from the beginning until 2010, trying to build this extra thing that we think should work, and it will work. And everything in the back of our minds are thinking, everyone says it takes 5 years, and then your business will then start, giving back to the business as a whole, making a profit that we can then either reinvest or what have you. But in 2010, we thought, we're going to put in this, something that we've always wanted. It's a wood-fired oven. I've been looking at designs, so a local artisan, Chris Fox, He did the woodwork in front of the bakery. He's really fantastic artist, construction artist, I should say. He built that oven from plans that we had gotten, and it's basically just a really old style wood-fired oven that was, built similar structure in the 1800s. The same flue where it actually just convections inside and it rolls and then it goes up a flue, so it's just one solid inside with lots of insulation around it. And we get some really nice breads from it and great pizzas too out of it. However, even in 2010, when the wood-fired oven went in, it's still the business. I can't even say that the business went up or down. It was just kind of like slowly. People loved pizza. It wasn't a matter of the product as much as it was just getting people understanding or trying to get them into the door and get the pizza to them fast enough possibly. Over the course of the next couple of years, we kind of shortened up the hours to 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Then at the very end, in around 2014, am I getting too far?
No, it's okay.
In 2014, we shortened it to just one night, Friday night pizza. And that was, I'm just trying to give that one story.
And that was a great idea. That
That
was
was
the best thing we did,
everyone
because
to
it
come
made
in
it
on
really
Friday night
special.
pizza.
It was this really special pizza that you're not gonna have every day. You can't call it up and get it delivered to you on your couch. It's something really special, and it's people coming together and appreciating it. And it was fantastic for what it was. But I think the story that is left out there is around 2010, right as we were getting our wood-fired oven built. It was the same time that one of our farmer suppliers was getting shut down because of the fracking industry coming into this area. And so we started learning about fracking and how our energy is actually being produced and how it's affecting people who live in the areas where fracking and frack waste is being dumped. So I started taking on a lot of activist work, learning more about it and telling other people about it, and it really took a toll over the years. I mean, that was, say, 2010 to 2014. I think it took a toll on the health of the business. I wasn't dedicating much to the business because I was working with the community and even nationwide, and it put a lot of pressure on one partner to keep the business going and to keep 3 businesses going. And so we did have a little bit of a crisis in 2013 or 14. And meanwhile, personal health issues happened that we had to deal with. And so I, got a shock, oh my God, I really have to cut way back all this extra stuff I'm doing if I want to preserve what we started here, what we're fighting for. So that was the other part of the story that it's important to keep that in mind, I think, when you're trying to do something big like run a business and expand a business. Personal health and personal relationships are, essential to keep in mind and to keep healthy. And we did. And we shut down Bella's on. No more pizza. So now we actually do have it available for parties. We have one next week. And it's just a really special thing. I mean, things have changed over the years too, that Bob used to make the mozzarella from the
Oh
milk.
yes, Snowville milk came on.
There was no Snowville milk. Snowville came around 2007, I think, maybe a little later. And things that you were making from scratch, people started producing here locally. So we were able to buy a local product that we didn't have to make ourselves, which helped lighten the load a little bit.
Like at the end of the time that we did pizzas all the time, and we still buy mozzarella from Laurel Valley. They make a wonderful mozzarella. I get it in 5-pound logs, and it slices up great for the pizzas. I used to want to dedicate making that mozzarella, and a lot of those things are just too much to pile on to a job description to really want to have too much. So that's kind of like a good lesson to spread out. okay.
So did you find that all those special projects are kind of what made your job special? And that when you said, okay, now I can buy that, did it change, what am I trying to say? Did it change your kind of relationship with the product? Did it change, do you trust other, this is my question, do you think would it ever have been something that you could train somebody else to do, was to make that mozzarella in-house, but not you doing it, or was this something that only you wanted to do?
It was based on the finance. You couldn't hire somebody to make it. You needed to have the cows in the field to make it and then sell it to have that profit, but you can't buy milk. That's how, I mean, it was all based on,
Okay,
a
I just
construct of,
wondered if it had
Yeah.
to do with, you not giving up ownership of the cheese.
no, it maybe to some small extent, because it would take too long to train somebody.
Well,
Yeah, that is a consideration, and when you're working in an industry which has, I think we just learned it's like 70% turnover, which ours is not, it's actually like 20 points lower than that, but you do have, we have a, what is it called, non-permanent base here in Athens. We have a lot of students and a lot of transient, thank you, and even professors that are moving through a little more rapidly than some other towns, so it is something to consider how much you're going to put into training somebody before they move on suddenly. But Bob definitely loves learning about food, and one thing that is super important to us is all the education that we get from doing this business. So, learning how to use a wood-fired oven and learning how to make some of the things that we weren't able to get, and now some of them we can get. It actually just lets us then, oh, great, now we'll learn how to do this other thing. It's like, it's not like we just get to sit back and, because we don't, we keep wanting to do more things. But we're learning how to, say, make polenta in the oven instead of, we used to stir it on the stove for, a couple hours. Now we are able to bake it for a wonderful product. Oops. And, some of the other things that Bob has focused on making, he puts up a bunch of pickles, some of Ed's pickles.
Not for a long time.
Not
Not last
I
year,
failed you on pickles.
Not this year.
just next year.
But we've done a lot of
It's
pickles.
extending the season.
Extending the season,
That's a key part, is that when we think about our product and what we buy, much of the time, we're looking at quality, and also dollars. How can I lower our product cost? But also, how can we also buy more from the local producers that we have, that can produce it in a better way, in a better trust, and a better health, and all of that. So by putting up our food as much as we can, I do peppers, pickles, tomatoes, sometimes sauerkrauts, and what else are we doing?
Those are some of the main things.
Those are some
Tempeh,
things.
learned how to make tempeh and tofu recently.
Yeah, all of those things are like, purchasing or local, because, for example, Shagbark has those things available, like black beans and soybeans available to us, so that we can actually utilize bring our income stream towards them, as opposed to having it go to
Yeah,
further afield.
we buy from suppliers outside of this region, but they're always organic, and we try to find, say, cooperative businesses or individual businesses, not, some business that's really owned by Hain, Celestial, or one of the mega corporations that own everything. So, but as much as possible, we want to bring those things even closer to home. So, yeah, like, we're able to get decent tempeh, but if somebody was working on a local tofu, but they got out of that. So anyway, there's opportunities for lots of other sub-businesses to take on these products. But another thing we were learning about, not that, not wine time yet. Well, maybe it is, yeah, that was part of the varied income stream. So this, we started, we got a wine, it's very hard to get, it was very hard to get a beer and wine license. We wanted to sell retail beer and wine in our shop, because we have a shop attached to the bakery that has local products, but, you know, cheese, bread, wine, beer seems like a good thing. And it took a while. We finally got a beer license, so we had some good craft beers, and this was before Jackie O's was bottling their beer. Now we have some of theirs and Little Fish. And the wines we buy, we got a wine license in, I don't know, 5 years ago. We just buy from small producers, and they all of the wines that we have have some kind of sustainability efforts. They're either biodynamic or organic, or they're, you know, we've heard the stories behind all of these winemakers. So we feel that wine is, if you drink alcohol or wine, it can be, you know, an important part of, you know, the food economy. And so we want to support the people that are doing good things with vineyards as well. And that has been an excellent help, because we don't have to do any work to put wine on the shelf, but put a sticker on it and put it on the shelf. I mean, we try to market it a little bit, but it really helps because our margins are so negative or you know, zero. So a little bit of wine and beer sales helps us a lot. And what else? And we got to get a tasting license. So we don't have a license to actually serve wine, which is where you actually make money in a restaurant. You know, serving a glass of wine for $12 or $7 or something. But we do have a tasting license, so we do wine tastings about once a month, and we have great help with wonderful people who help us with that. And it's just a community gathering thing, and it's educational. We all learn about the wines, and you know, we would have had to pay a lot to go and learn as much as we've learned about wine. So that's a benefit, I think, for us.
What is it? It's about, wine is almost 7 or 8% of our total sales,
Is that right?
but it's probably about 100% of our profit. It's a good way to think.
Yeah, yeah, it allows us to do all the things we want to do and to keep doing the food stuff. So what I said about our, you know, the troubling times and when we were focused on fighting fracking, at the same time we recognized, hey, you know, we're using some of this, you know, fossil fuels ourselves, and we don't have to be. There are alternatives. So the same guy who, this is Chris Fox's wooden structure holding up this solar awning. But we started thinking about solar, and the first project is that one on the roof. And that was in 2010, 2011?
2010.
This is back when governments were very supportive of, you know, advancing clean energy economy. So we got subsidies from the federal government and I think state government, Ted Strickland, at that time. But it was very expensive. Solar was still quite pricey. So that was, and my family helped at that time because the credit union had helped us with purchasing the property, you know, while the economy was going great, so that was wonderful. But after that, they didn't want to put a lot of money into things like solar. So we were really lucky to have a family who felt as strongly as we did about this kind of change. And then the second project was, you can't see it in this picture, but the solar awning, which was both the construction of the actual patio, you know, with the wooden beams there from Chris Fox's property, and maybe your property as well, I think.
In the lumber?
Yeah.
No.
No. Some farms nearby. Actually, wasn't there one that there was a story?
Oh yeah.
He did get a few trees from me.
I thought so.
There's all of the rafters, all the way across the top. They're basically 4x4s or 4x6s. They go off that span the whole aspect of the canopy. Were pine, white pine, forest area that came down in the derecho that we had in 2008 or 9. I can't even remember, but right at that time, he went to this place and he harvested all these downed timber that was taken down by a torrential rain or a torrential storm that was potentially caused by our climate change regime that we have. And he put it up to put solar panels up to combat that. So I like to say the two things kind of, one bad, put up something really good.
And another more basic business advantage was we doubled our seating capacity, because now we have room outside in a lot of weather, that people are very happy to sit out there.
And cooled our bakery
Oh, yeah,
extremely, so much better.
saved us a lot
It's
of
a lot of
money
energy
on
savings
air
by
conditioning.
having that design to cover the cement that used to be baked and then come right
reflected in.
It's been a big, I can't even remember how bad
It
it
was awful. And then we also, I forget when, maybe 2014, I have to write that report. We got
2014.
some grant, REAP grant, Rural Economic, it's through the USDA,
Rural electric.
something.
Regret.
Anyway, it's a program to help businesses and farms and rural areas do more with renewable energy and energy savings. So we got a geothermal system to replace our old heating and cooling system in this building, which uses a lot of energy to heat and cool. And that was a fantastic change. We now have, especially in the extreme cold that we had recently, and in the really hot summer, it's so much more economical to run from. It's not geothermal, like there's no thermal hot springs beneath Athens that we know of, but it's just putting can you describe how it works?
Yeah,
It's like pipes
it's
underground.
like a ground source heat pump
Right.
rather than an air source heat pump. You see a lot of the ones that are outside the units that take the hot and the cold and transverse that into the temperature in the house or the bakery. And with the ground, it's more stable. So
Aren't
It stays about
So by
55.
doing
Two
that-
drilled holes.
There's 5
There's
drill holes.
5.
Mhm.
How deep did they go into
I
that?
think it's 300 or is it
Yeah, I
more
thought
than
it was just
Yeah.
a
It's
huge
amazing to
number.
think they could build drill,
Right in Athens, right
Right
in this
in a
lot.
small
I
area,
know, it was
5
surprising.
how deep, 200?
3 or 500, that's
I
over 300.
remember when I read about it, it just struck me that was a tremendous
And
drilling down.
And what?
then they put pipe down and fill it with
Yeah,
water?
it's just pipe and probably coolant or, antifreeze or something.
It actually is water.
It's just water.
It is just water, not a coolant,
It is just water.
Yeah,
but it isn't exposed in the winter, it's all
no, it's all
piped
all
directly to the building,
contained, yeah.
so it isn't exposed.
I'm just curious, when you did do the drilling, did you ever like send the core samples and just for your own curiosity, see what
No,
was in there?
we didn't.
No, it was more like a water well where they actually drill and they pull down the water pipes. I was asking them the question. Basically, it's
Pipe down as they're drilling?
they pipe down as they drill because it's a loop. They heat seal the loop, then they drill down and leave the pipe, and then the casing comes back up. It's pretty interesting.
What percentage
What
of your
percent?
heating and cooling, or how much is your bill going down, or like usage? Can you
Yeah,
give a percentage of how much this contributes to heating and cooling?
yes, we do have numbers. It's kind of hard because the electric company can change, how they charge you, so it's hard.
I mean, for the geothermal heating,
I guess the problem
must have
was
been doing natural gas before.
exactly.
It was gas.
So our natural gas bill was a lot higher. Our gas bill was higher in the wintertime, but our electric was lower in the wintertime because we weren't running air conditioning. Now our electric bill is higher and we have no gas bill.
You have no gas bill.
We are completely off of gas
In this
in the
building.
building.
And the low. don't you need backup supplemental heating in the winter?
No.
No,
The
actually.
geothermal does all of it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's just, that's the source of the air or the temperature, you know? And then there's an actual, you know, there's a heating and cooling unit, just like,
Electric,
yeah,
so
exactly.
electric is the
We're
backup,
still using electric
okay.
to operate, but it's not a backup, it's part of the system, you know?
Because it has to exchange the heat, it has to pull the heat, the heat's coming out of the
Exactly,
ground at
fans have to
40,
operate.
50, 45, 47 degrees or
So
something.
Yeah.
we don't have an auxiliary, is what your question. We don't have anything but geothermal
Yeah.
heat. So we don't have anything but.
There's no more,
And it does work very well. I could say that it struggles and it doesn't turn off during the bitter cold.
But it's always comfortable in there.
Yeah, it's great. And at the same time that we got rid of our gas in this building and built the wood-fired oven at Delazona, we were able to get rid of 3 gas ovens and
Yeah.
turn off the gas. And
don't
that
you
was-
have
that was
some
big.
gas cooking burners, ovens, anything?
No, we used to use induction burners when we made the switch. We just use electric commercial burners. Yeah, we have no gas. You know, as a restaurant, we were always trained that, oh, gas is the best, you know, and you see the flame and it's like, wow, you know, you have total control. But we really have not missed it at all. Electric units work very efficiently and, yeah, there's no need for gas.
So do you have any idea about how much the solar panels are offsetting your electric? I mean,
Yeah, we have numbers, where are we?
just a ballpark would be really interesting.
Yeah, here's the solar, I have a whole chart here, I will actually show you that. But I want to make sure to get through the rest of this. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do you have a direct answer?
It's more complicated because it was during a time frame that we were increasing our electric use
Right,
by transitioning our
from gas to
from gas
electric.
to
Right,
electric.
right.
And then once that happened, our electric was way high.
Right.
It all depended on how we reduced our energy use by 50%.
Yeah, that I guess that would be it.
But that was, you know, a combination.
Yeah, your
of
total energy
efficiency.
is reduced by 50%. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I'll show you a little bit more about that. And so then, this is looking out of Delazona, this is this year?
This is
2017?
this year, yeah. This is
Yeah,
this
so this year we, why were we inspired to do this? Just because we were sick of not seeing solar panels on Delazona. And the front of Delazona wasn't looking very hot. It had, you know, the sun had deteriorated the signage and everything. And
Yeah.
we weren't the pizzeria anymore, so the sign had to come down anyway. And so why not put a big, nice solar awning on there? The first one was done by Third Sun Solar, and the second one was done by Third Sun Solar. This one was done by,
This was a compromise between just the front and the top. We wanted to have a whole system on the top, but we couldn't